the 7th century of Japan. Welcome everybody, and thank you so much for coming. I hope that you enjoy this afternoon, but I want to tell you what a huge favour you're doing me by being here. As many of you know, I spent 3 months in Japan earlier this year, and I learnt a lot. And by you coming here today and allowing me to tell you all about it and to play lots of nice music as well, it's really helping me to consolidate everything I've learned. So thank you. Okay, so people, quite a few people said, so when did you develop an interest in Japanese music? And I said, the moment I saw this ad coming into my inbox. Embarrassing answer, but it's true. I never thought anything about, I mean, I love Japan. I've been there 3 times with work, very, very lucky, I know. But Japanese music I knew nothing about. But like most flute players, I'm game to try anything. And all you've got to do is look around this shop to know if you're not a flute player, you'll have an insight into what we're like. I mean, the things in that cabinet for a start. And Mark has shakuhachi, tin whistles, fifes, panpipes, you name it. I've tried it, and I'll give anything a go. And I think most flute players do have a spirit of adventure. And there are certainly flutes in every culture, with the exception of our own. The didgeridoo isn't a flute. But anyway, so the ad came around many kind of a very circuitous route. I saw it, I thought that's got my name all over it, and I applied. And you all know what happened. I actually got it. I did an interview and all kinds of stuff, but let me tell you why Columbia University felt the need to do this, spend a lot of money on me learning this. Dr. Barbara Bush is a fantastic lady whose life and passion is medieval Japanese history, in particular the music. And she understands and taught me that in the late 1870s, the Meiji period, Japanese history took a gigantic turn and they started looking at Western everything. Industrial revolution was happening and Japan suddenly felt that they were being left behind in certain directions, you know, and music, they thought, was one of them. Everything was being influenced by the West. The dress started changing, the guys started cutting off those brilliant top knots they used to wear, Western dress, not Western food, thank goodness, but Western everything else became very fashionable. And all the composers and musicians were going to Europe to study, bringing back the violin, the piano, wind instruments with keys, unlike the Japanese traditional instruments, which are basically slices of tree, hollowed out in most beautiful ways. But that wasn't what they wanted to do, and the West kind of infiltrated. Learning traditional Japanese instruments was banned in schools, not in a kind of scary way. It's just like, no, we're not going to do that anymore. You're all going to learn the violin and the piano. And they took to it like, you know, extremely well. Consequently, some of the finest, you know, Western musicians in the world today are Japanese. Anyway, so Barbara is passionate about teaching Westerners about traditional instruments, and they must have got some money together and decided to put this ad out for a Western wind player in a symphony orchestra to go to Tokyo, and yeah, that's what I did. So I did the interview, 1 month of study, which it says up there, I'm sure you can't read that, turned into 3 through a series of misunderstood questions on the telephone to which I, you know, answered yes. So just if you say yes to everything, you kind of can end up with more than what you've bargained for. But I'm so glad that, because 3 months was the absolute minimum that I needed to learn this instrument. And I'm still, you know, I'm still learning. Of course, we're all learning our instruments for our whole lives. Okay, so let's have a little bit of music now. I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague Louise Johnson, principal harp of the City Symphony, who is going to play the harp, obviously, but a lot of the music that Louise and I are going to play this afternoon is for koto, which you may know is a beautiful Japanese stringed instrument, harp-like, and Louise can sound very much like a koto when she wants to. Without further ado,
even when I don't want to.
Even when she doesn't. Yeah, so this piece is kind of a bit out of the blue, but I just thought it'd be nice to play a beautiful piece of music before I talk anymore, by Kosaku Yamada, a 20th century, one of those 20th century Japanese composers who went to Berlin and pretty much never came back, wrote an enormous quantity of symphony, opera, but he stayed true to his Japanese heritage and did put Japanese everything into his music. This is just a little tiny piece called, and I didn't check on the pronunciation, Chugoku Lullaby. How was that? Okay, Chugoku? Yeah.